David Scott Ghantt was a simple man leading an ordinary life. He worked as a vault supervisor at Loomis Fargo, a cash handling company in Charlotte, North Carolina. Day in and day out he handled millions of dollars, yet he remained a small cog in the machine, yearning for something more. The monotony of his job bred discontent. Ghantt felt trapped, his dreams out of reach. Fate had a surprise in store for him. One evening, Ghantt met Kelly Campbell at a bar. They had gone to high school together. Campbell shared stories of her life and Steve Chambers. This detail would change Gantt's life. Intrigued by Chambers, Ghantt was drawn into their world. He saw a way out, a chance to break free. As Ghantt spent more time with Campbell and Chambers, a daring plan began to take shape. They recognized the opportunity presented by Gantt's position at Loomis Fargo. The idea was audacious, seemingly impossible to rob the very vault Ghantt was entrusted with protecting. Fueled by a potent cocktail of desperation and ambition, Ghantt agreed to participate. Over the next several months, they meticulously planned every detail of the heist. Their plan hinged on Gantt's insider knowledge. He knew the vault's security protocols like the back of his hand. He understood the shift changes, the camera angles, the timing of the cash deliveries. They recruited others to their cause, each playing a specific role in the elaborate scheme. There was Michelle, Chambers' former wife, tasked with moving the money once they had it. The stakes were high, the risk immense, but the potential reward was too tempting to resist. The lure of unimaginable wealth and a chance to reinvent themselves drove them forward, blinding them to the potential consequences of their actions. October 4, 1997, dawned like any other Saturday. The Loomis Fargo facility buzzed with activity as employees went about their daily routines. Unaware of the impending chaos, they carried out their duties, oblivious to the fact that this day would be etched in the annals of criminal history. As evening approached and the clock ticked closer to closing time, Ghantt prepared to execute his part in the meticulously crafted plan. With a mix of nervous anticipation and adrenaline coursing through his veins, he entered the vault. Following the plan, Ghantt disabled the security cameras, their watchful eyes momentarily blinded. He then proceeded to load bag after bag of cash into the back of a waiting van, the weight of the money a tangible reminder of the magnitude of his actions. The air crackled with tension, every second felt like an eternity. Finally, after what seemed like an age, the van was loaded. Ghantt had successfully executed his role, but this was just the beginning of their audacious plan. The real test lay in escaping with their loot and disappearing without a trace. Escape to paradise? Gantt's Mexican misadventure. Leaving his accomplices to deal with the aftermath, Ghantt made his escape. He had been promised a new life, a life of luxury and anonymity, far from the prying eyes of the law. With a wad of cash and a fake passport in hand, he boarded a plane, his destination, Mexico. He had traded the mundane routine of his former life for the uncertainty of life on the run. Gantt's Mexican misadventure. Leaving his accomplices, Ghantt made his escape. He was promised a life of luxury and anonymity. With cash and a fake passport, he headed to Mexico. He traded his mundane life for uncertainty. As the plane soared, Ghantt felt exhilaration. In Mexico, he tried to blend in. He rented a modest apartment, but old habits die hard. His extravagant purchases were too tempting. Ghantt attracted unwanted attention. His lavish spending raised red flags. It was a rookie mistake. Each luxury brought authorities closer. With millions at their disposal, the Loomis Fargo heist crew embarked on a spending spree of epic proportions. They traded their modest lives for a world of luxury and excess. Chambers and his wife moved into a sprawling mansion, a testament to their newfound wealth. Lavish parties became the norm, fueled by champagne and overflowing with guests eager to bask in the glow of their ill-gotten gains. Designer clothes replaced their ordinary wardrobes. Sports cars, a symbol of their extravagant lifestyle, filled their garages. Ghantt, living a seemingly idyllic life in Mexico, couldn't resist the allure of extravagance either. He indulged in plastic surgery, hoping to transform himself and outrun his past. He purchased a beachfront property, a tangible reminder of his stolen fortune. However, their reckless spending, fueled by arrogance and a distorted sense of invincibility, would prove to be their undoing. Each purchase, each extravagant display, left a trail that the FBI would soon follow. Their dream life was quickly turning into a nightmare. The FBI, alerted to the massive Loomis Fargo heist, launched a full-scale investigation. Agents descended upon Charlotte, determined to bring the perpetrators to justice. They meticulously pieced together the events leading up to the robbery, interviewing witnesses and following every lead. The crew's ostentatious spending spree raised red flags. Their sudden, unexplained wealth was impossible to ignore. The FBI began tracking their purchases, their movements, and their associates. The net was closing in. Meanwhile, Ghantt, isolated in Mexico, grew increasingly paranoid. The promised paradise felt more like a gilded cage. He realized that Chambers, entrusted with the stolen millions, was not the friend he thought he was. As the FBI tightened their grip, the crew's carefully constructed facade began to crumble. Their greed, their carelessness, and their misplaced trust would ultimately lead to their downfall. The walls were closing in and their days of freedom were numbered. Life in Mexico for Ghantt was a far cry from the carefree existence he had envisioned. The initial thrill of escape had faded, replaced by a gnawing fear and paranoia. He was alone, isolated, and haunted by the consequences of his actions. The lavish lifestyle he briefly enjoyed now felt like a burden. Every phone call, every knock on the door, filled him with dread. He knew that Chambers, the man who held his fate in his hands, was not to be trusted. Chambers, true to his nature, had grown tired of Gantt's constant demands for money. He saw Ghantt as a liability, a loose end that needed to be dealt with. A sinister plan began to form in his mind, one that would seal Gantt's fate. Ghantt, sensing the danger, became desperate. He reached out to his former girlfriend, hoping for help. He was trapped, caught in a web of his own making. His dream of a new life had turned into a living nightmare. Back in the States, Chambers, driven by greed and fear, decided to eliminate the one person who could connect him to the Loomis Fargo heist, David Ghantt. He hatched a plan as cold-blooded as it was audacious. He hired a hitman, a supposed professional, who would make Gantt's death look like an accident. Chambers believed that with Ghantt out of the picture, the FBI would have no case against him. He could finally enjoy his ill-gotten gains without fear. Unbeknownst to Chambers, his every move was being monitored by the FBI. They had tapped his phones, infiltrated his inner circle, and were closing in on him and his accomplices. Chambers' arrogance and misplaced trust in those around him would prove to be his downfall. As the trap was being set, the FBI waited for the opportune moment to pounce. They had gathered enough evidence to bring down the entire operation. Justice, though delayed, was about to be served.